Fixation!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, false gods and faulty androids alike, welcome to the Polis Box Live, where we put Doctor Who in the dock. Tonight we continue our trial of Series 21 with Planet of Fire, a story which features the return of Anthony Ainley as the Master. Now, down the years, the Master has had to endure a series of humiliating fates at the hands of the Doctor and his friends. Consigned to a Seafort prison with only a Clangers DVD for entertainment, manhandled to the ground by Action Man Sergeant Benton in front of a crowd of Morris dancers. But in Planet of Fire, he faces perhaps his most demeaning experience yet. Having been shrunken to minute proportions, the renegade Time Lord is chased around his TARDIS by a sandal-wielding Peri, intent on splatting him with a short, sharp slap of her shoe. Talking of which, I'm joined as ever by two men for whom having their little masters spanked by Nicola Bryant remains an unfulfilled dream. It's Cameron Phillips and David Cummings.
Yeah, you see, normally there's an insult in there. That was actually true. I can't argue with any of that. That's fair.
I keep tweeting her photos of the dog, hoping that, she'll get the knickers off, but she, no.
Never.
Never.
This does not happen. Actors, just stop themselves.
I know. Christ.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to the Polis Box Live, a potential series decider tonight, as we'll get into the details of that a little bit later on. But Dave could seal the series with a win in his favour on tonight's show. But the eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed that we're not alone tonight, because in a first for the Polis Box, we're joined tonight by a man with a bona fide criminal record. It's true, It is true. Because after an ill-fated metal detecting expedition on private land went horribly wrong, resulting in an officer of the law being accidentally shot in the leg, our guest tonight has been ordered by the courts to spend some time with us mugs in order to help administer some justice to the world of Doctor Who as part of his community service. He's a stand-up comedian, but tonight he's sitting down to dissect Planet of Fire with us. From the On the Time Lash podcast, it's the one and only Mr. Ben Verth.
Hello. I had forgotten that I'd even done that. That was a nice blast from the past. That was. It was nice that you showed restraint as well. Because when I filmed that, I fell over and down the hill, and the trousers were too big for me. I know. Can I?
There we go.
Oh, sorry, I disappeared there for a second.
Yep.
We're back for your arse crack there. Yep. You're frozen your arse.
Okay. The internet just is not prepared for me to talk about my arse crack. My trousers fell down a bit and my arse came out. So they used the arse crack outtake as like the coming up next week, like trail. I don't know why people thought that was going to be a pull for the next.
Scott's ship just plunged off the cliff at that point.
Yeah. And I tell you, I don't know if it's funny or not. That was episode 5 of that particular series, and unfortunately, they had to move it to a week later. They had to swap episode 5 and episode 6 because there had been some sort of gun violence in Glasgow against the police. So they couldn't have on that same week me firing like a fucking jackdaw gun at the police. So they put my like arse at the end of episode 4 to lead into episode 5, but it wasn't episode 5. We moved it to episode 6, so they had to put my arse again at the end of episode 6. So my arse got like more screen time than I fucking did in the actual.
So the Scotland's viewing public were waiting a fortnight for your arse.
I don't think anyone was waiting. I think if we probably looked, at the the ratings, you could see it like fall right off a cliff.
Well, I think the moral of this story for everybody watching tonight is do not present a firearm in the face of the police, because, unloading a fully loaded pistol into a policeman's leg is what got John Barrowman in trouble in the first place.
Yay! One.
Where are we?
One.
Not even 8
One
minutes
tonight.
into the show.
Yeah.
We're-
Well, Dylan Reese had better watch out, because your arse might win an Emmy as well, and then he can't claim to be the only Emmy award-winning person we've ever had on this this podcast. So there's time.
I think Dylan is well within his rights that if my arse wins an Emmy, a decade after it put in its performance, he's probably going to leave the business. I think any sane human person would do that.
Well, let's leave it on a cliffhanger to find if Ben's arse gets the award it deserves. Let's have a look at the series results so far. I mentioned earlier on the potential tiders. So, Warriors of the Deep was found guilty by 58% to 42%. The Awakening and Front Yoss were found not guilty by 90% to 10%. And last time round, with Ben's broadcast colleague Mark Donaldson, Resurrection of the Daleks was found not guilty by 67% to 33%. All of which means that it's an absolute shocker. All
He phoned me crying after it as well.
I don't blame him.
Salty tears. Yeah. All of which means that Dave leads the series 3-1 with 3 trials remaining. So if he wins tonight, he is series champion and gets to select the series we put on trial in our next series of the Polis Box.
Which I hadn't even started thinking about the possibility of yet.
You'll have time.
You don't have to pick tonight.
Yeah.
You'll have at least 6 weeks from now, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plenty of time for consideration. Okay, then. We've got no other business, so we just get on with proceedings.
Yeah.
Let's do it then. Okay, then. It's time once again to go back to 1984, the rock and roll years. Will the subject of tonight's trial have its reputation yanked from the flames at the last minute, or will it just be try on your patience? Let's find out as we put Planet of Fire on trial.
Do not interfere. TARDIS will be taken to point of contact. I must obey. Find point of contact.
You're not taking the TARDIS anywhere. And you're not listening to any more messages from Tryon. You're finished, chameleon!
Your golden hair and pale blue eyes, but through all the days and the sleepless nights, we have never been satisfied. Tumbling like the leaves, yeah, we aspire on the breeze, almost to the point of no return. Everything will burn, baby, burn. Look into my tired eyes, see something you don't recognize. Lies can't be untied. Oh, this is so suicide. Feelings that I can't disguise. We're living in a compromise. Oh, something inside us died.
Planet of Fire was written by Peter Grimwade, it was directed by Fiona Cumming, and was produced by John Nathan Turner with music by Peter Howell. It starred Peter Davison as the Doctor, Mark Strickson as Turlough, and introduced Nicola Bryant as Peri, with Anthony Ainley as the Master, Dallas Adams as Howard, Michael Bangeter as Kurt, Peter Wingard as Timonov, Barbara Shelley as Sarasta, James Bate as Amyand, Jonathan Kaplan as Roskal, Edward Highmore as Malkin, Max Arthur as Zuko, John Alkin as Lomond, and Simon Sutton as the Lookout. It was broadcast between Thursday the 23rd of February and Friday the 2nd of March 1984, and the viewing figures were 7.4 million for part 1, 6.1 million for part 2, back up again to 7.4 million for part 3, and rounding off at 7 million for part 4. Those are the cold, hard facts of the episode itself, but tonight our nation rejoices because there's no On This Day in Who story, mainly because of two reasons. One, I'm certainly not daft enough to parade my half-baked jokes in front of an actual professional comedian. And second of all...
It's never stopped me. You're saying half-baked. I'll go on sometimes scarcely baked, so joke away.
And second of all, most of the news around this period of time is pretty bloody bleak and relating to the start of the miners' strike. And it turns out there's not a lot of lols to be gleaned from the police beating the living shit out of striking miners and Thatcher's systematic dismantling of working class communities. Who knew?
Weird that.
Yeah.
Mental.
You can tell it's a Scottish podcast, can't you? With that,
yeah.
With that intro.
Up the socialists. Right. Before we get into the trial itself, it's just time to tell you that you can get in touch with us tonight and give us your thoughts on Planet of Fire. All you have to do is send us a comment for the live chat box on YouTube, and we'll put them up on screen as they come in. Also, voting is now open. So based on the arguments put forward by Cameron, Dave and Ben tonight, you get to decide whether Planet of Fire is guilty or not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who. The final results will be revealed at the end of tonight's show, and there's a little link in the YouTube video that you're watching right now. Clicking that link, it will take you to the poll on Twitter. Right then, without any further ado, should we just call this court to session?
Probably, yeah. Play the clip.
Yeah.
That's the format.
Yep.
This court is now in session. Order in the court now. Can't nobody smoke now.
The trial of Planet of Fire is now underway. Here's who's doing what tonight as Ben jigs in his seat like a happy bunny. Cameron and
Great.
Ben
I love the soundtrack of the Polish Box. It's I have to say of all the podcasts, like the production values on this thing are on point. It's great.
Thanks very much. Cam and Ben will be prosecuting Planet of Fire tonight. Dave, as he has been doing throughout this series, will be defending Planet of Fire. Just before we start the proceedings properly, I just want to check something with you guys to make sure that we're all on the same page as far as the trial goes.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, now the Planet of Fire DVD has a number of different versions on it. There's the broadcast version in 4 parts. There's a special edition edit with additional footage added. So can I just check which version each of you watched?
iPlayer.
iPlayer, yeah.
iPlayer as well. Well, yes, iPlayer, yes. Although I did manage to get hold of a copy of the Planet of Fire special edition movie as well. I did a lot of research for this. I watched as many versions of it as possible.
Easy.
And doesn't. It was a poor choice on my part to do all of that.
So we all watched the 4-part version then, did we?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Right.
But have you seen the special edition version as well?
Oh yes.
It's something, huh?
Was that the director's cover? It was suddenly 66 minutes long.
Well, we fucking wish. There's a special edition on the DVD. There's a special edition where they've done it as a movie-length thing with new special effects, which means that they've added fire effect to all the stuff on Sarn. So when like the Doctor and Turlough and Peri and the Chameleon Master are wandering about, there's just bad fucking GIF overlays of like flames coming out of rocks and shit. But they also have the prologue where Turlough's dad's ship comes in and crashes, like it approaches Sarn and then crashes as a pre-title sequence. And the way it looks is the start of Time in the Rani is better than what we get as the special needs edition. I think is probably
special
the
Okay.
It's just, why did they do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to be able to watch the 4-part. I mean, well, full transparency in the courtroom tonight. I think I watched a different version from the three of you. I appear to have watched the South American edit of this story, which I think was intended for broadcast in Chile. See what
Here
you
comes
guys
the
think.
punchline.
Yeah, see what you guys think. This is a cliffhanger from part 3 on my copy.
The Master's control box. I may have a puny mind, but you don't need to be Albert Einstein to find the off switch.
Cerveza cristal. Cerveza cristal.
Look, it's fine. We'll muddle through it. It's fine. The general gist is the same no matter which version you watch. So, you know, I think we'll be okay tonight, won't we?
Obviously.
Okay, well, now that we've got that cleared up, it's time for...
This is the law. Chapter 1.
Once again, we've thrown open the courtroom doors to invite you, the viewers, to take to the stand and give your evidence on Planet of Fire in its trial. First up tonight, we have Rassilon's Trousers, who says this about Planet of Fire. He says, Planet of Fire is great. Wingard is immense. Ainley's master is somehow infinitely more menacing, strolling around in a suit and tie. And there's some excellent moustache work all round. And how Mark Strickson survived diving headfirst into about an inch of water, I'll never know.
Who knows? Who knows?
It's a fair point. There are quite a lot of hirsute gentlemen kicking about in this one.
Yeah. I'm also a bit confused as to how he survived with that level of sock stuffed down the front of his shorts.
I think that was just gonna stop him blowing away.
Come on. Come on.
I'm sure he did.
It'd be quite soggy when he came back out of the water, though. It'd been like, never mind.
And the socks would have been wrecked as well.
Next up tonight, Andrew Blair has been in touch to say this about Planet of Fire, considering all the characters I had to write in and shake all about. It's pretty great from the second episode onwards. Part 1 is a bit of a slog, though.
Okay.
Part 1 is the scene setting, largely.
I
It's
like...
just getting everything in place before it begins properly.
Are we to take anything from the fact that Andrew's Twitter handle appears to be freelance liar? Is that a thing? Can you hire those now?
I possibly can't answer. You know, it's for the man himself to say, not me.
I don't think you can hire them. I think we just vote for them in elections.
Hey, second little bit of politics tonight.
Politics.
He's also Andrew's also changed his name. I don't know if it's because you mentioned this in the last episode, Resurrection of the Daleks. His handle used to be, or his name used to be, rather than Andrew Blair, it was, oh God, no.
Oh, is that him?
And he brought attention to that. And now he's changed it. And like, did you give him a complex? Did the Polis Box give a guy on Twitter a complex?
I think Equity must be after him after we put his name in EastEnders credits. So he's have to change it by default, I think.
Maybe.
He wanted a proper IMDb entry.
Next up tonight is a man who hasn't changed his name. It's Gareth Bowley, who says, it's okay, nothing much to shout about. It's just okay.
Which means that it's not guilty. Okay means not guilty, so that's on my side. I'll take that.
I think it means Annie, are you okay? Are you okay, Annie? And that means you've been hit by a smooth criminal, so therefore guilty.
The reference for the teenagers. Right then.
Come on.
Next up tonight is a guest from our Frontiers episode. It's Dave Rennie, who says it's very meh for me. There's a stunning location. Turlough finally changes his outfit, and Ainley has cracking cliffhangers. But there's questionable extras acting, a disturbing Peri nightmare, and the Logar thing doesn't grab me. I'd say guilty on this one.
Good
knows.
man. Good man, Dave Rennie. Good man.
Yep.
He's a good egg for a hip supporter, isn't he?
I know. I was going to say I wasn't going to go with for a high B he's a good guy, but
It's a very low bar, that one, though, isn't it?
It's a low bar. Like
Once you add in for a high
low-
B, it's scraping the bright bottom.
a low bar and a high spoon.
Let's leave the man alone. Let's leave him alone and move on to Lucy McCall. Lucy says, not guilty.
Hello, Lucy.
Peri makes a good start. Hello, Lucy. Peri makes a good start. The doctor is ruthless and there is redemption for Turlough. Oh,
A, we'll talk about. B, true, but is that a good thing? And C, really?
Yeah, I always try to encourage people to contribute to viewer evidence, so thanks for that, Cam.
I'm not what? We're supposed to just sit here and go,
We've got to discredit the witnesses. That's our job.
Yes,
as the
the
prosecutors. We've got to bring
If they
to
disagree with us.
question the soundness of their mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're fighting
Get into
dirty
it,
like it's
into it.
Victorian court.
Everyone who likes Planet of Fire is obviously mental, is what we're trying to get across here.
Well, you better be kind about the next two bits of the viewer evidence because they're going to be on our Twin Dilemma show with us at the end of this series. First up,
All right.
Cochran from All the Time in Space podcast. He says, it's a great introduction for Peri. Look, she's got her knockers, but I think she's great.
And I think that raises a couple of good small points. It's a very fair moment.
The Polis Box is brought to you by Benny Hill.
If we're on this territory, only when I saw the little trailer that you'd put together there, I didn't realise how prominent wee nips Chameleon had.
I noticed that as well.
Properly, like we.
Yeah. Oh, aye. Actually, yeah.
They're there.
Yeah.
This is a safe space. Is this the point we close the door when we're watching Planet of Fire so our partner doesn't see what we're up to? Aye?
Yeah, it's a bit.
I
mean, that's all a Doctor Who.
As soon as Chameleon comes over, they're pointing nipples like, no, you need to leave the room, love. You can't see them.
Metal Mickey's showing them off. Next up tonight, again on our Twin Dilemma episode, it's Fraser Gregory who says this. About Planet of Fire, you've got to admire the talent that goes into making something containing Mark Strickson in his Speedos and Nicola Bryant in a bikini so bloody dull. One that doesn't engage me at all, despite all the high points. Hold me closer, Tiny Master. The stunning location shooting, and Peter Wingard camping and vamping it up like the Nouts the Matter. While it's lacklustre into Turlough and Chameleon stays in the TARDIS, quite fitting in Chameleon's case, you might argue, it's a strong start for Peri. Looks better than it actually is.
There's a lot of sense there.
Fair enough.
I reckon.
Yeah.
A lot of sense. Yep. He knows what he's talking about. We won't need any evaluations on Fraser.
Yeah. Probably a Hearts supporter, I would imagine.
Yeah, probably.
With an excellent take like that. Yeah.
Next up, with his own unique brand and excellent takes, live from the Pissed Leisure Centre from last week, it's the one and only Mr. Paul Quinn, who says it was brave of the BBC to cast Peter Wingard in this following his conviction for wanking off or sucking off a crane driver in the toilets of Gloucester bus station. Given it was written by Grimwaite, whose signature shot as director was buttocks, young man or Cyberman, and given the number of young men in shorts, Wingard must have thought Christmas had come early. And then a naked German lad swam into shot to save Nicola Bryant. Result, bikinis and cocks. It's a wank fest for all. And the master burns to death, and they get rid of Chameleon, the piece of shit tin can that made Metal Mickey seem realistic, and who probably would have been C-3PO's prison wife in a droid-based remake of Prisoner Cell Block H. Is it any good? Who the fuck knows?
Oh my god!
Well, Cam and I do, and it isn't.
He also goes on to ask, "Will you be addressing the fan theory that Howard was abusing Peri?" No, good. It's Doctor Who or Jolly with Jason King in a sheet. It's not Twin fucking Peaks.
Wow! Just wow!
This is why we need to get him on.
Yeah, or maybe it could just do a monologue for an hour on his own.
The Polis Box presents Talking Heads.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Next up, Charlie Barnes has been in touch to say this. Any story that has Peter Wingard and Barbara Shelley and was shot in Lanzarote has to be worth something. He then goes on to say, as far as I know, Wingard was never a serious candidate to play the Doctor. I've certainly heard worse ideas than the Doctor as Jason King.
Well.
A bit of alternative casting there. Okay, next up, it's our friend from away across there on the other side of the pond, having his lunch in front of us, most likely. It's Joe Llewellyn, who says,
Hello,
the Fifth
Joe.
Doctor. Hello, Joe. The Fifth Doctor is the only classic Doctor Who stories I watched in chronological order, besides the Five Doctors. So by the time we get to here, my expectations are pretty low. I liked it. Great locations. Turlough got something to do besides being useless and untrustworthy. The Doctor seemed to be a bit more engaged in the story, and Nicola Bryant is a beautiful woman, definitely. Nice wee City of Death reference there, Joe. Her accent is not the worst thing in Doctor Who, and I like her as a companion, especially in Big Finish. Good supporting cast. It's fine. Not guilty.
Yep.
We seem to be getting a lot of, like, not outright condemnation, but not outright ringing endorsement either at the minute in this.
Yeah, 50-50 so far, 50-50.
It's a bit, yeah.
There seems to be a lot of people who are saying just slightly on one side of the fence, but only slightly.
Yeah. I think everyone's got like one foot on the fence, but just kind of leaning one way or the other.
Yeah.
Well, let's find out where our final bit of your evidence leans. It's from Michael Storm, who says this. I quite like the story, but the memory of it will always be tainted from watching it with my ex-partner. Height of summer, so I had the bedroom window open. We were watching the story in bed with the curtains drawn, and when the real master was revealed, my partner bellowed, "My God, he's so tiny!"
Brilliant.
Never let us say that our viewers are not curious people, because Paul Quinn then followed up by asking, did you shout back, "I am the master and you will obey me," or did you let out a chameleon-type cry of distress? Michael says, the latter.
Wow, that gives something of an
that paints an image,
indication.
doesn't it? So there we go. That's the viewer evidence. Broadly mixed, so, not favouring one side or the other. Okay. Before we start the trial properly, a few comments have come in while we've been doing that. First up, Daniel Ronsley says, here I was thinking that story with Strixon Speedos and Bryant's bikini cleavage was going to be totally restrained, and we've already talked about Ben Verth's arse. Off to a roaring start, gents. Restrained,
It's what the
Daniel,
people
if you
want.
watch
It's what the
Polis
people
Box.
want.
Yeah, it's what they're getting, whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
Gabay has been in touch to say, story so unmemorable, forgot chameleon was in it.
Says it all. It says it all.
Says it all, yeah. And finally, for the moment, Joe Llewellyn has been in touch to say, thanks to North America's daylight savings plan, this started at 1 p.m. my time, and I'm back on the clock. So I'll be well behind the live stream as I listen between calls. Sorry, not guilty.
Nothing to be sorry about.
Yeah, you can watch it. You can watch it and catch up, Joe. It's fine.
As long as you vote in the poll, that's the important bit.
Right then, let's get
It's America, though. Surely he has to go through some weird convoluted college procedure, and then we have to get sort of two candidates, Chameleon versus Turlough for the presidency, and then they have to argue with each other for about 6 months, and then it all boils down to whoever's got the most money.
And if you don't like the way he votes, we can stage an insurrection at City Hall, and then it'll all be fine. So
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Right then, let's get the trial itself underway. As usual, guests go first. So Ben, do you want to give us your first point of the prosecution of Planet of Fire, please?
So I've got about 6 or 7 points, and I'm not sure how to open my argument. Do I go for something, a meaningful deconstruction of the story? Tells you all about how the various building blocks of this thing will tumble at any moment, or do I go for something frivolous but that has such a profound effect on me? I'll go for that.
I'll go for that.
Yeah.
The Fifth Doctor's little holiday waistcoat is the single most disgusting thing I've ever fucking seen in my life. Like, right. This might be something strictly personal to me. I don't think it is, but I've already got like a kind of weird thing when it comes to like certain textures and looks, and I just can't look at episode 1. I can't look at that disgusting. It looks like it's fucking nicotine stained. It looks like it would be cold and scratchy warm and wet and dry all at the same time. And like if you were to touch it, it would just be the most disgusting. Like, I mean, even the production loses any kind of confidence in it. Like he loses it after, like he leaves it behind in Lanzarote and you never see it again. Like, say what you like about Colin Baker's costume or Sylvester McCoy's costume or Kevin McNally's costume from the Twin Dilemma. This is the most, I believe that Michael Grade watched this Planet of Fire episode 1, saw that and went, fucking stop any funding, get him out of the building. That's the end of it. Like, call it a day for Doctor Who. There's no way. It is the most profoundly, I think I'm probably just talking to myself here. It is the most profoundly, it gets me. Like I feel sick. It's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. And there's a reason that you never see a fucking B&M Fifth Doctor figure variant with that disgusting fucking nicotine stained your old granny's fucking tea cozy thing that he's wearing. I rest my case.
Right, I'm just going to look at the price for a 3D printer because I'm going to make that model and post it to you. I'm going to post you another one. I'm going to go on Etsy and get somebody to knit you that waistcoat.
Yeah. I just point out that Lucy McCall was very good at knitting. She does all these knitty characters as a doctor. Lucy, if you're watching, get us out in that waistcoat. I'll give you Ben's address.
No, I know, but no, I guarantee that she'll attempt to start making it and then she'll feel a profound sickness inside as well. And she'll be like, oh, he's right, get it, fucking put it in the bin. Like, what? You wouldn't even give it to like line a dog basket. Like, that is, I don't know what it was. It's just, I was like, you look at it and you just go, what were they thinking? Like, they can't have been. Like, and the guy, it was, I think the costume designer is like John Peacock or David Peacock or something like that. And it's like, mate, you've even got a good name for costuming and you fuck up this badly. Like, it's the most disgusting thing I've ever, like, and this is the same series that gave us Tom Baker sucking off a big bollock with a tentacle. Like, it's...
Do you think they had it planned when they went out there, or do you think they were just in Lanzarote and he was like, right, I can't wear this, I'm too fucking hot. Get me something else to wear. And the costume designers went off and beat a local child and stole their clothes.
I mean, it's got to be. I mean, I like they seem to lose it after the first day of filming.
Yeah. Do you think
because
it was like,
obviously?
Yeah, because it's like the local version of Morris dancers. He's got Lanzarote Morris dancer. Said that looks weird. Give me one of them, and that's what they put on him.
They're probably, there's the story about Nicola Bryant was drowning, and like a nudist German leaps in to save her. You know, like there's probably like Miss with Peter Davison. They're probably like people are walking down the street and they're confusing him with like a lesbian pensioner wearing that thing, and that's why they had to bin it. There was probably a lot of double takes by a lot of elements of this. I feel like this is not the strongest opening case that I could have made here, but like,
it's good. It's good.
Yeah,
it has given us a potential episode title already in Lesbian Pensioner, so we're off to a flyer here. It's fine.
It's like a lesbian pensioner who runs an antique shop. That's the vibe. Like, I don't want that from my doctor. Like, I don't want that from my doctor. Sorry. Like,
no.
We've come a long way from that to Shooty Gatwa, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be seeing Peter Davison wearing that jacket having a dance at the Oscars. You know, like we've moved so far beyond it.
Yeah, it's a hard point to argue against because it's a very personal thing. So yes, I'll give you that point. You think that's disgusting. I can't really change your mind on it.
He's taken your.
Am I?
He can use it against you.
Yeah.
Am I the only one who thinks that? Are we okay with it? Like.
It seems quite an intense, violent reaction you've had.
Yeah,
you fall asleep at night screaming, going, "No, don't keep the waistcoat on." Is that what it is?
Don't make me wear it, Howard.
Oh God, can you imagine if fucking instead of like the snazzy dark suit for the Chameleon Master, if it was just wearing that thing for the whole
Little question
for the
mark on. Oh.
It's
The greatest
it's
evil in the
wild.
universe dressed in your nan's curtains. Yeah.
But like
Nice.
that she's had up for like 30 years and just chain smoked right at them for that entire time. Like that's what they're
You find it years later in a wardrobe when you're googling how to get rid of the smell. It's like douse it in bicarb and vinegar. Just like, and then maybe,
and holy
just
water.
maybe, yes,
And petrol.
you'll have a chance. It doesn't necessarily need cleaned; it needs an exorcism.
Yeah. Like burn it in a fucking trash can in the garden.
And then it still remains. You lifted out this perfectly. We burned it, and it's still here.
It's still absolutely fine. I don't understand it.
It walks among us. You can't kill it.
Just anyway, so that's my number one reason. Get rid of Planet of Fire. Fuck
Above
me.
all
I mean,
else.
like
Because
I
of the
just,
waistcoat.
I never would have guessed that your biggest reason would have been fashion choices. Not in a million years.
I just like it. Honestly, I'm not even okay. Maybe there's a certain embellishment for comic effect, but I'm not making it up when I say like there are certain textures and certain kind of materials that just have a profound and like the way like people will they don't like seeing like a bunch of holes and stuff. People have got like a it's like
You know,
a
in the videos
phobia
I
of
watch.
that. I just get it with a disgusting Victorian summer waistcoat. Like that's number one.
Okay. Anybody else want to argue for or against Peter Davison's sartorial choices in this episode?
I'll take this
never thought to
opportunity.
myself saying.
I'll take this opportunity to point out that usually I have to apologise to Ben for this, because usually when I've got colleagues on my side for the Polis Box, I will kind of like send them all my points in advance so we can kind of confer, and it totally skipped my head. So I didn't get a chance to hear any of yours either. So this is a surprise to me as it is to anyone else. But yeah, I don't know how, but I full-heartedly agree. It's minging and it makes my skin crawl, and yes.
Well, you know what? It has got its fans, because Rassling's Trousers has just been in touch to say it's surely only a matter of time before Big Finish release the Waistcoat Chronicles box set.
No. No, thank you.
You'd like to say no, but can we really rule that out?
It'd be better than half of the recent releases, let's be honest.
No, possibly.
Is it back? Is the Big Finish Twitter account back yet? I haven't checked. Remember it went missing a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Street parties up and down the nation. It's finally dead. No, I think Nick Briggs has found the password again and they're back up and running. So.
Oh, damn.
Was there any explanation? Like, what the fuck happened? Because if you forget the passwords, it doesn't remove your account. You just can't access your account.
Yeah.
What? There's some fucking Kate Middleton shit going on there.
I think I found the password scribbled in a notebook. It's just all in lowercase letters. Must cast myself in everything. All one word.
Yes.
And he does.
It is. Right then, let's move away from the manky waistcoat and go for the first point of the defensive Planet of Fire. Dave, you're up.
Let's start with the character that doesn't get talked about much, and that is the location. It's the extra character in this story. I was struggling to think of many other classic Who stories that are actually filmed on a foreign location. And we don't even get that now. You don't get foreign locations now. You get either Cardiff or a soundstage near Cardiff. That's pretty much where they film now. The amount of money they must have spent to do a BBC Doctor Who production in the Canary Islands in the 80s must have been insane. And I think the story actually benefits from that because obviously it is actually a volcanic island, so it looks properly alien. And the viewers at the time, it was, I said, the early 80s, people weren't going on package holidays to the Canary Islands yet. So you actually watch it on screen and you can see the Doctor running around an alien looking landscape with black rocks. There's no need for special effects. There's no need to add extra fire on now as they have in the special edition. You can actually just show them running around on a volcanic beach, running up mountains, and it looks properly alien. And I think it was a really great idea that they did it. It was a great way that they did it. It was probably also a waste of money. But that's what Doctor Who did at the time. They had good ideas and they spunked money up the wall on them, which left not enough money for all the important bits for other stories. But I think it's a great setting and a great location, and they properly make use of it as well. It's easy to believe that the little bar next to the port where they're watching the boats come in and the mountains they're running up later on are completely different places, even though they're probably only about 15 miles apart. So it was a great choice and it was well done. I think it would have been helped if they'd actually invited the writer to the island, but that's not for me. But I just think, yeah, it's a great location.
We were probably going to touch on that at some stage, and this is maybe earlier than I anticipated going to this. But
Take him down, Cam. Take him down.
I'm trying. Peter Grimwade, he's a lot bigger than me. Peter Grimwade was apparently put in a request when they were location scouting for this one to go with them, go with the crew. The argument being that he would get a much better idea of where they were filming and therefore would be able to kind of integrate that into the story a lot more. The request was denied by GMT for the simple reason that he didn't think writers were worth actually taking anywhere and he should just basically stick to his desk somewhere. So I kind of, yes, it's a unique location for a Doctor Who story, but there's a certain feeling of desolation and overall kind of like blandness that runs through it, because once you've seen one sand dune, you've pretty much seen a lot of them. And for me, it just adds to the sort of malaise that this story gives generally. I mean, as I often said in like previous episodes, watching all of season 21 in consecutive order enables you to pick up on a lot of points that are sort of going through the series rather than you wouldn't get if you just watch stories individually. And as we've talked about, there's a kind of air of this is a Doctor Who production team that couldn't really give a fuck anymore. And it's kind of the idea of they've obviously kind of booked this jolly out to Lanzarote and the Canary Islands, hoping that it's kind of, you know, mum and dad are getting divorced, but if we go on this one last holiday, it might rekindle the romance. And it really fucking doesn't. So yes, it's a unique location. Yes, it looks good initially, but then it repeats and repeats and repeats. But is it actually anywhere near? Does the story actually gain any benefit from it? Maybe not in the long run.
So are you actually just grumpy because they didn't invite the writer along and that offends you at a basic level?
I'd be lying if I said no.
But
because anytime someone says, who gives a fuck about the writers? There's a small part of me squirms, almost like it's a manky waistcoat that's stained with nicotine. Because it's kind of my shtick, yeah? So...
And you say once you've seen one Dune, you've seen them all. There's a film in the cinema at the moment you should probably avoid then.
Yeah, well, pretty much. Pretty much. Once you've seen one House Atreides, you've seen a lot. You know what I mean?
And I think actually in this case, instead of it being we'll spend the money on the holiday to see if it rekindles the romance, I think this is more of a fire sale before the shop gets shut down. And they're just selling stuff to their mates for cheap. It's like, fuck it, we'll claim on expenses, fuck it. By the time they get around to checking it, we'll be long gone, mate. I think that's more of what it might be in this. And you can see why they would do it. If there was an opportunity to take
yeah.
your office to Lanzarote for a week or three.
Absolutely. It kind of has a little bit of a similar vibe to Arc Infinity. You know, it's like going, let's go somewhere foreign. And the two doctors as well, when they were in Spain filming that. It's a bit like, you know, I get it, but it's it's very, very difficult to shake the notion that they've just done this basically for a jolly and disguised it as work.
I think I think the volcanic island was the right choice, though, because it does look properly alien.
Oh, it does, yeah, but you never get an idea of, you know, there's no kind of seeming place where this tribe lives. There's the wee temple bit where they land, and there's that little cave bit where it's all like, oh, burn them in the fire, and all that stuff. But, you know, burn the disbelievers. So there you go. And it's all like, you know, there's no sort of like, here's a working city where people might live. You never get the sensation that these people are connected to that landscape in any way.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all just like really kind of like, oh, I know, for all like Peter Wyngarde's character started blabbering on about, you know, the protection of our people and all this kind of stuff. We must believe in Logar. It's like they're going, there only seems to be about 6 of you.
And half of them don't believe in Logar. Like,
yes,
they're fighting against these unbelievers. The unbelievers look like they outnumber like the 5 old guys that do believe. It looks like about 17 of them, and that, like, when they start like bundling them towards the Tryon ship at the end, it's like there's 12, I think, at most. There's nobody. There's nobody on that planet.
It is just
didn't really need a ship. They just need an MPV on Uber. That would do it.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like, you know, they probably all fit in a lift. You know, without a problem. So no, yeah, it looks fantastic for a couple of exterior shots, but they don't have like to drill it into you, and it's just there's no feeling that the people in this story are connected to that landscape.
I can see what you mean to an extent, because what you're making me think of is Stargate, the film with Kurt Russell, where they find the big pyramid and they find the local kids, and then they get taken back to the local village and they get fed, and there's a whole ecosystem there. That is kind of missing. I'll give you that point, because you could do with seeing the home, as it were. Rather, like, we get to see the shop front and we get to see the church, but we never really get to see the home that these people go back to.
Yeah, or the culture that daring not to believe is somehow going to destroy. Like, you know, like Peter Wyngarde, Timonov seems to have a faith, but why? I mean, I you know, I'm not a religious person myself, so I don't know, but like, you know, you never get to see what it is that he's obsessive about protecting, other than he had his own little experience once, and all he wants is to imprint it on other people, rather than there's some major. It's like it informs the very culture of that people, you know.
Some people would argue that's what most religion is. One person has an experience and starts forcing it on everyone else. Usually, it's called.
There's a joke there about the Gloucester bus station toilet, isn't there?
That's real, isn't it? About Peter Wyngarde.
Yes.
It was on. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I did Wikipedia.
I hadn't heard this.
Yes, I think he got fined for it at the time, and he believes that killed his career. But I believe it's also been expunged from his record. Like,
yes,
a pardon.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, after he died, he's been pardoned by the British government, which is nice of them.
Late.
Late.
Oh, was that great?
Did more when he was alive.
Yeah. It's not going to get another series of Jason King made for him, so it's not.
So does that mean that the Americans will take it off George Michael's record in about 2035 then?
Possibly.
Well,
It's
one-
interesting
oh, sorry.
if I can step in about locations. It's interesting what you're saying about. We've had City of Death. The year previous to this, we have Arc of Infinity. We have the two Doctors in the series after this, and one of the main complaints that's always made is, like, obviously is a jolly. Like, why is it Spain? Why is it Amsterdam? Well, the idea is, why not? It might have been a jolly, certainly, but also, why does all Doctor Who adventures have to happen within the home counties? The thing about this one is, an Arc of Infinity gets it probably most of all. It gets that, why did they go to Amsterdam? Or it doesn't add anything to the story. It's some guff about the sea level helping Omega or whatever. They just accept it. It is happening in Amsterdam and it was in the past and there's nothing you can do about it, right? But this is the story where you go, well, you've obviously picked a location and it adds nothing whatsoever at all to the story. They picked Lanzarote because Fiona Cumming, the director, apparently sent a postcard to JNT lobbying that it might be a good place for a Doctor Who location. Fine. That's how you make television. You have these ridiculous notions and you tell it to your friends and then something might happen or not, right? But they then do it. And in order to make it happen, they give the government of the Canary Islands like script approval. They're responsible for taking out certain lines. It was originally supposed to be a Greek island, and they insisted, no, if you're going to shoot in Lanzarote, we're not being anyone else's island. It's going to be the Canary Islands. And so that's why they remove a few lines from Peri saying that she's bored on holiday and this is like the arse end of nowhere. That's not the line, but that's the sentiment. My question for you guys is, why are they even on Earth? Why, like, it's Sarn, it's Lanzarote. What part of the plot at all requires them to have come to Earth in the first place? Because it's all happening on Sarn. Turlough's father's ship crashes on Sarn. That's where the distress call is coming from. Apart from the but apart from that conceit of having to pick up Peri, like, why is there a try-on device on Earth? It's never explained.
Yeah,
because the try-on have people all on a lot of different planets. Tarlo says that towards the end.
But why? But why does it have a? But why does it have? But there's a. But why is there on a planet that is not where the ship has crashed? Why is there a distress beacon under the sea, which is only moments before the adventure begins discovered? Like,
it was bringing it up out of the water that activated it, which is what made the TARDIS appear there.
Yeah, but why is a distress beacon on a planet which is not where the distress is?
For story reasons, to get Peri in a bikini.
Sure, and it is. You're right. You're perfectly right. It's to pick up Peri. But outside of that, as a location, there is zero point for it to be Lanzarote, other than the government of Lanzarote went, you gotta name check us. Do a bit in episode 1.
Yeah. But that probably got them a discount on the hotels. Maybe.
It might have done.
Oh,
and I mean,
probably.
you know, this isn't the first time they were there. Like, they had the production, but they also had that jolly recce of Fiona Cumming and JNT and Eric Sayward coming over for holidays. The one that they banned, Peter Grimwade from coming to. Like, and there's obviously bad blood between JNT. It's nothing to do with writers' camp. There's bad blood between JNT and Peter Grimwade. JNT just didn't want to have a lads drinking holiday with Peter Grimwade. They just didn't get on. They just didn't want to. Like, that's why he banned them.
I'll still take it personally, though.
Sure.
Wayne, write a story about it.
Wayne, have you thought about writing a story about that? Write a story about that. It'd be really, really interesting. No, it's not going to be really interesting. Trust me.
About an angry writer that doesn't go on holiday. I can see it now.
That could be the Peter Grimbage short trips.
It's like when people ask me, kind of going, "Have you thought about having a comedy show set in opticians? That'd be really funny." No, that wouldn't be funny. No. Trust me. Just trust me. It wouldn't. No, I don't think anyone needs to see that. No.
While we're on the subject of locations, we've had a few messages come in while we've been arguing that point over. First of all, Colin Hicks has been in touch. Good evening, Colin. He says, I think it was a mistake using Lanzarote as itself and as an alien planet. I remember when I was a kid watching it being quite confused as to what scenes were on Earth and what weren't. But perhaps I was just a none too bright kid. Sure,
No,
that's not the case,
no.
Colin. I'm sure that's not the
No,
case.
he's perfectly correct.
Yep.
He's perfectly
Not
correct.
obvious.
So I'll tell you what. So as well as watching the episodes, I read the Target novelization, and the structural issue with part one is that they keep doing that thing they do in the 80s where they keep boom, 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 like setting up all the stories in very like in the first maybe 4, 5, 6 minutes. And so you keep cutting back and forward to exactly the same sort of landscape and locale. Like when the TARDIS lands on the beach, like there's no hiding the fact it's the same sea that Timonov and Malkon are looking out on, that kind of big outcrop fucking, I think it's a restaurant or a pub now or something like that. It's the same place. They look like the same place. And it's a mistake to have it as the same places. In the Target novelization, they structurally fix it. They do all the Lanzarote stuff. Not that it matters, you're reading it, but like if it had followed that original drafting, then having all the Lanzarote stuff and then only dealing with any story setting on Sarn when the TARDIS actually goes to Sarn would have been better. There would have been a much clearer differentiation. And, you know, maybe if they'd had a few more directorial choices that really identify the two different places, like the coastal areas specifically for Lanzarote, or, you know, just the volcanic, the volcanic mountains purely for the Sarn stuff, that looks different enough that you'd go, all right, I get it. It's probably the same places, but they've at least taken a care to hide that it is the same place, you know.
There is a few times where it feels like they could almost just spin the camera around 180 degrees and film the next scene there.
Like they're taking a Jules Holland's Hootenanny approach to filming Doctor Who. Just 5
Yeah, but this is
scenes
watchable.
Chameleon on the boogie woogie piano.
Oh God, can you imagine?
Turlo and Coldplay.
I'm just getting this image now of just Chameleon just sat there kind of going ding 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 ding. Ah!
While Roland Riveron just sits in the audience because he's always in the fucking audience.
Yeah, he's just pissed as a fart. Just kind of like David Tennant and his hilt up on the table going, "Hey!" Happy New Year, it's fucking August.
Why do we waste our time with a Polis Box, and we should be in charge of commissioning on BBC Two?
We should be, yeah. It should be fucking
Fixed
great.
all the problems with Jules Holland's Hootenanny.
The greatest ever like Hootenanny was on Twitter, where Richard Herring was pissed on a New Year's Eve and realised he was watching the Hootenanny and realised he was watching himself on telly, pissed in August. It was just like, it's the most fucking weirdest thing. He just live tweeted himself getting drunk whilst watching himself getting drunk. By the by.
Also on the subject of the locations, Mark Donaldson has been in touch to say, oh, Sarn isn't trying, is it? Never mind. And he also goes on to make a very good point here. He does say, have we mentioned how weird it is that wee ginger Turlo is from such a roasting hot planet? No wonder he fucked off. As Scottish people, we can sympathise with Turlo's plight there.
Also, no fucker mentions tractators.
Yeah.
There's no frothing in the mouth.
For all being kind of like going, oh, they came along and ruined everything, like literally a few weeks ago. It's like, No one mentions the big fucking beetle things. No.
Suppressed it in her subconscious.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a
Followed up.
galactic war. I didn't read it. You know, the book Turlough and the Earthlink Dilemma. Target books, the companions of Doctor Who. I've not read it, but I just have it in my head. It's like, what if there was the Civil War on Tryon? What if like one side were just like riding tractators into battle?
Very slowly.
Very slowly. Just
try not to tip them over. Well, now we've given Russell T Davies a brilliant idea for the new series there. Let's go to the next point for the prosecution. Cam, you're up.
Oh,
what have you got?
Hello. A question for the courtroom, right? How old is Peri supposed to be?
Just old enough so that it isn't creepy.
Because
she's at college, so she's legal.
Keep telling yourself that.
I think I actually know the answer to this.
Go on,
but I won't reveal it if it gets in the way of us taking this motherfucker down. So you go first.
Well, it's just it obviously because she whinges throughout this entire story like some kind of like angsty toddler. Because it's always like it's too hot, she's bored. They kind of have a moment of when she's like seemingly quite capable. She's going to put all of her passport and her documents in a plastic bag and swim to shore. That'll be great. And then she fucks that up, and then she starts going, yeah, Howard, and whinging on about that. Yet, on the other hand, they'll sexualize her at a drop of a hat. The infamous, out the water in a boat, thing, and the fact she spends pretty much the entire episode 1 in her skimpies, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
Not that I've got a great memory of it, but yeah. It's just, as far as a character goes, she seems to have absolutely no basis for, either of those. It flicks back and forth between the two. And it really gives her introduction this kind of like scattergun approach in which nothing really, I was going to say nothing sticks. I'll reword that. Nothing feels kind of like concrete about her character. It's just very sort of wishy-washy.
It does feel a bit like they're not sure where to aim it. And that's what they struggle with. Because, yeah, as you say, she starts off, even in episode 1, she is in charge of her own destiny. She knows what she wants to do. She's willing to sell her plane ticket to risk it so she can go travel a bit more on her own, admittedly with 2 random blokes. But then she gets left on the boat and she throws basically a temper tantrum. Where she just stands at the bus and goes,
yeah, that's what I mean. It's essentially just like, it's that of a child.
Yeah. But she goes full Bear Grylls after that, knows to put her stuff in a bag and tie it shut. And then halfway back to the beach, she forgets that she's literally holding a flotation device.
Yes.
Nearly drowned. and it's that back and forth, up and down of her character. But I think that's to show that she's young, but not too young. So she's got ideas, but she's naive. She's not got the world experience yet. So we're bringing on a companion who can grow.
It doesn't stop her from being exceedingly fucking irritating as well. And I mean, I often kind of wonder with companions, it's like, why would you take this person on a journey through time and space with you in the TARDIS without the desire to instantly kick their arse out the fucking doors 5 minutes in? It's the reason why Adric for me is a completely non-character, because no, you just wouldn't. You'd have kicked his arse at the doors long ago. Peri's the same. You wouldn't even let her on board. And the choice at the end, you having seen all that, you'd be like, oh yeah, I really want her on board with me all this time. Yeah, obviously, I mean,
we've seen what happens when the Doctor wants somebody on board all the time, and it's Tennant and Rose, and we don't want that. We want there to be friction between them.
Well, as I was just about to say, she's only a few weeks away from Nyan getting throttled on the TARDIS console, I suppose. So, you know,
That's an extension for you.
yeah. But it's just, I found her introduction all over the place. I found that it was almost like they were going to give her something to do. They were going to make sure she was a strong character. She had her own agency about things, but then every time they just take that away from her. And it almost like by the time we get to the end and she's not been built up as this possible new companion at all. She's just been built up as this angsty wee child that just needs to just fuck off home now.
Yeah, there's I don't know if it's the writing or I don't know if it's the performance. I like Nicola Bryant, so I'm loath to
Oh yeah,
say
I'm
that
not
it's the
knocking
performance.
Nicola Bryant here, but yeah.
But for the most part, she's the master's companion for this. The master, sorry, she's the witness. She's the person that engineers a way of, you know. I guess the big character moment is she's able to hold her own in a mental duel with the master for control of Chameleon. That's supposed to be the big moment where we get that this young girl, and apparently if you zoom in on the passport that she's putting into her bag, it says that she was born in 1966. So she's about, if this is 1983 setting, it's what, 17, 18, something like that. She's supposed to be this kind of messy teen who ultimately has quite a core of mental and physical strength. But she just dresses it up with so much sniveling delivery, which I'm loath to say, and does so all the way until really we get to the mysterious planet, the trial of a Time Lord. And I get that she's supposed to be young, but all the way through from here, all the way through to Revelation of the Daleks, I don't really, maybe Revelation of the Daleks, you get a sense there's a more of a tit for tat, comfortable relationship with her and the Doctor. But up to that point, you get a sense that she's just dragging her arse emotionally through every scene without having learned anything, and certainly not showing any of that mental resilience that they were writing as a major character. Oh, Cam's gone. Oh, right, there he is.
Oh, and he's back.
Oh, look at me. Now I'm in the position of power at the top here. Look at this.
Kingmaker.
It's just like the acting choices, I think, just make her out to be such, I'll say it again, such a sniveling, messy, you know. If she hadn't delivered it like that, the ending would be very different. The Doctor quickly warming to her and going, 3 months, say, all right, let's have some fun. Because she does make good character choices. It's just done in such an uninspiring way.
Yeah.
A lot of people say this is a promising start. It is, but it never gets better than this. It's the problem. Like with a lot of Doctor Who companions, it never gets better than the initial throwing shit at the wall in terms of character that seems to be how they come up with Doctor Who companions. Like she's a botanist from America. Does the botany ever inform her character?
No.
At any point after this? I
Can't
mean,
really think of
the
one
computer
fleeting
programming
reference.
thing for Mel only
Yeah, I
ever
was
came
just
in,
about to say the same thing.
like,
Mel,
literally
computer
last
programs,
year
Mel.
for when she
Yeah.
returns. It's just, you know.
It's the beginning of that often held complaint that pretty much every story involving Peri will have someone basically rubbing their knees in her general direction. Some fella going, "Oh,
Yeah.
you hen."
Well, or like
never more so than
properly-
Adrazani, which is coming up, obviously.
Yeah. But then it gets like it gets seedy. As much as I
Yeah.
like Time Lash, it gets seedy when there's that like S&M fucking like spiked collar that they're like walking around, one of those blue-faced massive robot guys.
Yeah.
Like it becomes, you know, they set her up here as an object of attraction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did.
And that is what they carry forward in subsequent adventures. It's not the mental resilience of taking on the Master, you know, or, you know, the confidence to try and kill the master with a shoe. Like, it's like that's the thing. We're going to get onto that later on. That's 101 how to not have the audience give a fuck about your baddie by making him tiny, and he's kind of defeated by being chased around with a panicked woman with a shoe. I mean, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, they didn't need to do the bikini stuff. They could have just completely got rid of it. Because she could have turned around, seen diving gear on the boat, got on the diving gear, gone back to the beach with that, walked up the beach, James Bond style, bumped into Turlo there, sees the shit in a bag, and goes, I recognise that mark. That's my magic home dildo. No need for Peri to be in a bikini. Storytelling moves on quite nicely. But I think it's... Well, let's face it, they're in Lanzarote. She is an attractive woman. Why not put her in a bikini? You'd get in trouble for it now, but they wouldn't have got in trouble for it then, so it was just the way they did things.
I think the BBC in the 80s was a bastion of clean living behaviour, and this was obviously a rarity that they would have actually ever considered sexualising anyone on screen. So yeah, we at least we can look at that and know that this was a complete one-off at the BBC in the 1980s, and everyone positively church-like the rest of the behaviour from the rest of it. It was probably ministerial,
keeping the reputation of that corporation unblemished.
Exactly, unblemished, as it always is.
I think there's something to be said about this adventure, that with all the shopping list of stuff that Peter Grimwade has had to knit together, the thing that we take away and remember the most is, I think Fraser said it earlier, is Nicola Bryant in a bikini and Mark Strickson in Speedos. I mean that says it all. The two most memorable things in a given story.
Yep.
Yeah. And they're all in part one.
Yes, exactly. Which is utterly irrelevant to the rest of the story. Like, why the fuck were they in Lanzarote?
Does make certain things stand out, though. Right, are we done with that one, do you reckon?
I think we've exhausted that one.
Okay. What we'll do then, just before we go for our half-time break, we've had another couple of comments come in from Colin Hicks, who says riding tractators into battle sounds like a shit low-budget version of Dune.
Yeah.
And on Peri's metamorphosis into Bear Grylls, Daniel Ronsley says it probably actually be a great Bear Grylls. I need water. I need water. I need water.
And there probably is a subset of Doctor Who fans that would like to watch her drink her own pee.
Yeah. Send the pictures of that on Twitter instead of the dogs, because that doesn't work.
Yeah, that doesn't work. No.
On that note, I think it's probably a good idea if we take a wee half-time break there, eh?
Yeah. Probably, yeah.
Okay. We'll be back in about 10 minutes' time. We're going to go off and charge our glasses, let you have a break from the disturbing mental imagery we've painted for you so far tonight. We'll continue the trial when we come back, and we'll see you very soon. And we're back to continue the trial of Planet of Fire and take Ben by surprise. Is he with us? He's with us. That's good. You can use
He's
okay.
Yeah, he's back. He's back. Come on.
Right then, we're back to continue the trial of Planet of Fire. I've had a little look at the votes while we're having the half-time break. It is tighter than a tumble-dried wetsuit. I'm not going to reveal who's in front, but it's very, very, very close at the moment. So every single vote counts. If you're watching, you've just joined us, you can go to our Twitter page at the Polis Box or clicking the link in the description of this video. That'll take you to our poll. Get voting. We'll reveal the results at the end of the show. Right then, let's go back around again then. Ben, do you want to give us another point for the prosecution of Planet of Fire, please?
Okay, we touched upon it a couple of times. There's a lot going on in this. Peter Grimwade had a shopping list of stuff. Get rid of Chameleon. Get rid of Turlough. Bring back the Master. Get rid of him as well. Fuck, what else is there? There's loads. Fit in Lanzarote as a foreign locale. That is a lot. That is a lot of stuff. That is a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So how come this is still really dull? How come there's long swathes of Planet of Fire where it's just stultifying? Like there's loads. There's a big shopping list of things to bring those things all together. It still doesn't feel like it's enough for 4 episodes. Each of those elements could be their own serial, and they're all here, and we're still struggling for fucking stuff to do. Don't understand why that is, and it is boring. The characters, some of the characters, if Timonov hadn't been Peter Wingard, what would that character have been? Nothing at all. It would be your bland token. Kill the heretics, he's a spy kind of Doctor Who baddie, right? That character is on screen and is given gravitas purely because of the person who's inhabiting the bedclothes that they're made to wear. Like it's and a lot of the other Barbara Shelley's in it, like she's given that Sarasta and she's given nothing to do. If it wasn't Barbara Shelley, apparently it was going to be something like Eleanor Braun. And it's like, well, what were they envisaging for that character that we're going to get these noted performers? And then there's nothing. And then there's nothing there. We mentioned it earlier. It's just a big mess of, and the rest of them in terms of the actors and the other characters. And it's very, tell you what, it's difficult keeping track of them on screen. Reading the target book, it's even worse. It's just bizarre name after bizarre name, and you've no visual cue as to work out who the fuck is who or what they're doing or why they're doing what they're doing. There's nothing, like the characters are just bland in this, you know. And look, I mean, we suddenly get more information about a companion than we've ever had before. Not just about Turlough, than we've ever had of any companion. How come it's still really dull that we find out this stuff and that he returns to his people a fucking hero and he's no longer in exile and he's done something with his life and he's helped people and he's solved a mystery and he's learned something from that? I don't care. I just don't care. That ending, it's a companion leaving. I just don't fucking care. There's so much about it. Where you've got all of these things that the Grimwade's got to try and make work. Fiona Cumming has got to try and make work. And all it is standing in the ruins of a temple or standing in a bit of a volcano or watching TARDISes dematerialize and rematerialize around places or in one TARDIS and into another, stealing bits from each TARDIS. There are so many. I've got another element to this argument, which specifically talks about Peter Grimwade's fixation with Time Lord technology. But in terms of just the general production, I can't be the only one that thinks, fuck me, when's this done? When's this over?
We often say on the Polis Box that sometimes when we've done 6-part stories, they feel really, really dragged out, and it could well have done with just being 4.
Yeah.
This is probably one of those rare ones that could well have done with just being 2.
Yeah, it could be a 2-parter.
You know,
like part 1 is irrelevant, so it is essentially a 3-parter with a wee strange half-an-hour intro bolted on, like in Lanzarote. Because again, I'll stand by that. It's nothing to do with the rest of the story. But yeah, there's just loads of stuff where there's just a lot of running back and forward, and you never get a sense of the geography of where each of these bits are in relation to each other. So you don't know if it's an exertion that they're giving by running back and forward, or all these things are in the same little, I don't know, castle forecourt or something.
Yeah, it does feel like a story that's probably better suited to being in the next series when you've got 2 45-minuters. You can chop out a lot of the unnecessary stuff and probably have quite a good story as a result of it.
Yeah, I think if it was made now, there would have been maybe more drone shots in it now, so you could see the distance between things. Because I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
right. There's no sense of locations compared to each other. Like everything could be just over the next hill, and that would be
Yeah.
enough, just over the next hill, but no actual definition of where it is. I think it's harsh to say it's dull though. As you yourself said, there's a lot in it. We get a lot of development on Turlo. We get a new companion coming in. We get the doctor getting to, run around and tell people what to do for a change. We get the master chewing the scenery. Then we get Chameleon getting used as a lever rather than just lying down looking like a lever that somebody's dropped on the floor. So there is lots in this. Everyone
Have-
gets stuff to do. I think you might be getting confused between there's nothing going on and there's nobody leading this. Because they all lead it in separate scenes. There's almost threads of stories that eventually come together. But there's no one bad guy. There's no one good guy. There's no one particular storyline that takes charge. It all just kind of develops intermittently. And I think that maybe feels dull because
Well,
no
it's the astounding lack of pizzazz that each of those things develop with.
Mhm.
Like I get what you mean. Like there is definitely there are these strands of story and they do grow. There's a lot of coincidence. There's certainly a lot of coincidence. But I heard it described once. I can't remember where. It might have been in Doctor Who, the television companion, the David J. Howe book from the 90s, that says Planet of Fire is not so much a story as a series of explanations. That's what it feels like.
There is a lot of that in there.
Up
But Matt, tell me,
until
why do you need a bit of the TARDIS? Because of this. Tarlo,
Yeah.
tell me about your home planet. There's bits of it, yeah.
have we
Yeah.
before now seen that triangle on Turlo's arm before?
Not at all.
No.
No. So this is just a genuine thing that comes out of absolutely fucking nowhere, just to give Turlo a little bit of backstory, which I suppose
So not
is
necessarily. So not
Kind of-
necessarily nowhere. Apparently, this was a backstory that was conceived by Peter Grimwade for Modern Undead.
Yes, I was going to say it's in Modern Undead.
Yeah. Well, so the stories there, just nobody decided to say anything about it.
No.
In the stories
No.
between that and this.
Have we, at any point up until now in this series, remembered that Chameleon's aboard the TARDIS during all of the events that came before?
Nope.
Nope.
Doesn't get mentioned.
So he's
Doesn't get seen, doesn't get mentioned at all.
he's suddenly brought into it. There's a lot in this which is just sudden ideas that are just half baked on, that are just like, oh yeah, we need to do this now. It is that, like we said, the shopping list of tick that box, tick that box, tick that box. It's storytelling done as a box ticking exercise.
That's perhaps a bit
Aye.
unfair when you're talking about Chameleon, though, because they couldn't physically get the fucking prop to work, so they didn't really have much choice.
Yeah, but it's
but
like
to leave him out entirely. So
at
that's
no point
circumstances outside
even
control of the
is
story.
he in, when they go back into TARDIS and Warriors of the Deep, he's not there. He could just have been there in the corner, even at least to remind you that he's there.
Proper up the coat stand.
Yeah, he's not. He's not
I've
there
got
in the
images of a
awakening.
chameleon sitting there reading a newspaper as they come back into the TARDIS and he just moves the paper. We go back to reading it.
It's just like, it's kind of like that thing with Nissa when it was like kind of going, oh, we haven't got anything for Nissa to do. She's got a headache. She's aboard the TARDIS. It's fine. It's Chameleon is essentially that.
Come on now, Chameleon's a much better actor than Sarah Sutton.
Well, yeah, there is that. But it's just, yeah. I have written down here, we're suddenly encouraged to give a flying fuck about Chameleon, who hasn't been seen of in this series so far. The character was a failure upon introduction, and it becomes increasingly obvious that they've just remembered about him, and yet a lot of this story hinges on him. There we go.
Chameleon
Yeah.
is bizarre. Like,
Mhm.
this is the story that writes him out, and it's the first time that it's occurred to them. He's a shapeshifter. We could just have him in the shape of somebody else that's not a big fucking
Yeah.
robot. which is astounding because, like, the hero ship of the series, the TARDIS, is a shape-changing thing that's stuck in a particular cost-effective thing. They could have just got like, okay, so like King's Demons, the next one is the Five Doctors. They're always gonna forward the celebratory, but from like Warriors of the Deep onwards, why didn't they just have it done up as some, like, if they're looking for a new character, maybe Chameleon could be stuck as Peri, and you don't need the actual Peri. You've got a robot Peri like that. Well, I mean, that's like at the point where they work out what to do with them and get rid of them is the point that they should have went, you know what? This could work out. We could now have anything we wanted in terms of a companion.
They could do a companion of the week, basically. Like
Yes.
Columbo, where they've got special guest stars. Who's Chameleon going to be this week? Bring in Leonard Nimoy, spray paint himself, or fuck it, job done.
Yeah,
and they could do that every story.
And Chameleon, he doesn't have to like return to his original robot form before he takes on a new form. Like the Chameleon Howard sparkles and then turns into the Master Chameleon. Like, so you don't even have to have, if the problem is the prop doesn't work and it's ridiculous and you can't get it to do anything, forget it. You never need to have to do that. You could just have it kind of have a little twinkly glow and it's a completely new whatever you want for that week.
Yeah. Or even if it does need to change, then the actor goes, I need to change now. Lies down, shimmery screen, back to the robot model lying there. Doesn't actually need to move.
Yeah. It's such, I cannot get my head around why it didn't occur to them.
Yeah.
To make it work.
Robot that we can't use called Chameleon inside a shape-changing machine. Well, let's not use them for most of a series and then kill them off.
Yeah.
It falls into that thing. There's a couple of moments in this as well where what's going on isn't exactly tactile and like on screen. It's like Chameleon basically has this whole sort of mind battle with the Master, which just involves either robotic Silvery Howard or Chameleon or the Master kind of going that a lot, and then you have to kind of like basically look at that on screen. There's nothing to have any kind of object to it. And there's also the part where is there not 1 minute where essentially they're just huffing farts to gain power? It's like, anyway, we must inhale the fires of the mountains, the gases. Yeah. We must inhale the gases. And they're kind of going, oh, yeah, get a good whiff of that. Oh, yeah. And it's just like, so the Master really needs to huff this fart to actually maintain his body and be at whole again. And it's just like, it's just this vagueness of those kind of elements of the story are just like really, really off-putting.
You'd totally give it 5 minutes after Anthony Ainley stepped out of there, wouldn't you? Just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in that heat.
Brian sniffing the seat.
And this is why she never goes to Carlisle Comic Con, because you say things like that, Dave.
Probably.
Oh yeah, that's why she doesn't go to Carlisle Comic Con.
She's probably never going to go back to bloody Manchester. Never mind Carlisle, because Christ, she was raging that day. Raging. Has Ben heard this story?
No, I've not. What's this story? Juicy. I'm here for it.
We went to how would you pronounce it? Warp.
Warp. Yeah.
Warp in 2018 in Manchester, and there was Nicola Bryant was one of the guests, and there was a Caves of Adrazani panel, which ended up getting weirdly delayed, and we ended up getting like a 20-minute long Peter Davidson stand-up set, didn't we, essentially?
Yeah.
And a sort of impromptu Q&A because Nicola Bryant was apparently in traffic, and that was we thought nothing more of it. Went that ended, went for lunch, blah 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 blah. Later on in the afternoon there was like a Women of Doctor Who panel, and it was Sophie Aldred and Nicola Bryant. Nicola Bryant appears, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's a shame she couldn't, come to the Adrazani one in the morning." And she's like got a proper like face on, like absolute fizzing. And she goes, "I'd like to apologise first of all to anyone who was expecting me at the Caves of Adrazani panel this morning. Apparently, you were all told I was lost in traffic. I wasn't. I arrived on time. I asked if I had time to get something to eat. Someone went, yeah, not a problem at all. So I was sat having something to eat, and they never told me that the panel had started. So she was in the building, but no one, and none of the organisers had actually deemed fit to tell her that the panel had started and she needs to finish a jacket potato now. And it's like, so she was absolutely furious that she'd do it, but they basically tried to put across that she was the ignorant one for not arriving on time.
Yeah.
It was like,
That went
wow,
down well.
she was proper angry.
Yeah.
So, it's like, yeah.
It's funny with that level of organisation why it doesn't happen anymore, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird, but never mind. You know.
That's the sweet spot of conventions. Don't want any of these big O2 fucking shenanigans. You want stuff where the actors fly into a fury because of a fat guy in a tight-fitting t-shirt hasn't a clue what's going on in the building. Like that's
That's the true magic of Doctor Who.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, she was my god, she was absolutely fizzing. You could tell.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow.
Hey, maybe we'll get the same thing next week with Sophie Aldred. You know, there's a
She's
chance.
gonna
Funny, aye.
handle.
No one told me how far away Carlisle was. I would have cancelled again, but
distance culturally.
yes, it is 300 miles and 30 years away. So,
Can't you do that trip in a TARDIS, can you?
no, can't cover that. No, I'm sure it'll be fine. It'll be absolutely fine.
Okay.
No
Now that
problem
we've
at all.
absolutely trashed Carlisle and we're going there next weekend, we should probably just move on, just in case.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Well, I'm allowed because I'm sort of like, part resident, so it's like
Yeah, it's just me and Dave are going to have to deal with the consequences next Saturday.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. Well, talking of Dave, let's go back to him for the next point for the defence of Planet of Fire. What you got, Dave?
That was a smooth segue. That was really nicely done. That was good.
That's me done for the night.
Yeah. So it's something that we've already touched on several times already, and it's Peter Wingard. That man is a sensational actor in this. And it's not, I've written down in my notes, the gravitas he brings to the role is so much more than this time and Who deserves, because it is. You get a lot of actors in Doctor Who, and they go one of two ways. They either use their projection and their pronunciation and they go all big, or they chew fuck out the scenery. That's like the only two choices actors have in Doctor Who. But he actually builds a whole character in this. Through every conversation you see him have, you get a little bit more of him. You understand him a little bit more. There's a scene where he thinks it's the outsider that's coming. And he stops himself mid-sentence. And he looks off into the distance and there's almost childlike wonder on his face. And he goes, it's the outsider. And it's a full character that he's developed. And it's really impressive and really nice. And I think Ben's right. If I was any other actor, the character would not have been as good. But what he brings to this it's that Lawrence of Arabia thing. That's what he was aiming for, Lawrence of Arabia, and he nailed it. I think that if Peter Wingard was around now, he would have been Dumbledore. He's got that level of almost patrician headmaster with an edge of steel to him. And it's a shame that his career was ruined because of stuff that happened outside of acting. And not stuff that he should have been ashamed of, like many people at the BBC were. And the character of Timonov was apparently originally written to be much, much more of a religious zealot. It was meant to be like the Ayatollah in Iran. That was how the original script had him. But they toned it down. It was apparently Eric Sayward toned it down. And people got upset by that. But I think he made a really good choice. And Eric Sayward doesn't get a lot of respect for the things that he's done to scripts that have been handed to him. But I think toning this character down to make him more human and less insanely religious, so that he was just somebody with a deeply held, honest belief, I think that was a good choice. And I think without toning down the character or casting such a good actor, it would have been a massively different story.
Tell you what, that's a rare fucking instance, isn't it? Eric Saber's toning things down.
Yeah, well.
Get a snapshot of that and frame it above your mantelpiece.
I can't, in good consciousness, sit here and try and argue the point that Peter Wingard is terrible in this story, and oh god, what a terrible performance. Because I'll agree with you, it is really, really good. He's given it sort of his proper Ben-Hur going on here, and as you say, Lawrence of Arabia, that kind of style. He has, as I believe they say, understood the brief, which is fine. My problem therein lies that you have one actor who is so obviously leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else that it sticks out like an absolute sore thumb, and it kind of like puts everyone else in the shade in comparison. I have written here there's a certain discrepancy in the cast's ability. Peter Wingard doesn't get an awful lot of material bar shouting about non-believers, but he does put a lot of gravitas behind it. So the rest seem even more incredibly flat in comparison. So it kind of takes the shine off everyone else as a result. And obviously not his fault. He's, obviously given a job to do and absolutely going for it. And he's great in it. But it does show up a lot of the rest of them as a result.
Yeah, but most of them are not very good actors. We know that. It's Doctor Who in the 80s. Like, nobody's nominating this shit for a BAFTA. But he is a very good actor and quite a well-written role. It might not be how it was originally written, but the way it's directed and played in this, it's superbly believable.
Judging by some of the writing for the other characters, I think Peter Wingard's ad-libbing a fair bit here and adding bits and taking bits on his own, which is fine.
I think his choices of inflection on a lot of lines are probably all him.
But there is, there's like the bit where he's describing his childhood experience, where he obviously saw Professor Zongard from the Mutants in his suit. And he's that kind of like, he does have this kind of like misty-eyed nostalgia going on as he's recanting this story about how this was this life-changing literal religious experience, this religious awakening that he's had. He's genuinely really good, and it's probably one of the best performances of the entire series, thus far at least. But yeah, you have to kind of like then line that up with the guy playing, and I want to call him Malcolm, but I know that's not his name.
Malcolm.
Malcolm, that's the one. Him and his wide-eyed kind of.
Malcolm.
I thought he was the same guy as played Pex in Paradise Towers for a bit. It's not, is it? But it seemingly comes across as the same kind of guy. But yeah, him just sort of like staring off at the middle distance, going on about "I'm the chosen one," is kind of garbage in comparison, and it really kind of destabilizes the entire production.
He reminds me of Prince Herbert, played by Terry Jones in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. That watery, ineffectual little priest going, "What, the curtains? All this will be yours, my son. This kingdom. What, the curtains? No, the kingdom. The outside, all the stuff outside." He reminds me of that guy. He is very watery.
Yeah.
But I don't want to burn
curtains
people.
look like Peter Davis's waistcoat.
I can't. I'm not gonna sit here also and trash Peter Wingard, because he is. He's head and shoulders above everyone else. I would go as far as to say even Peter Davison. Peter Davison seems to have checked out in this story.
Long ago.
He knows it's another 4 weeks and then he can pack his desk and leave. And it feels like now there are some good moments. There are some definitely good moments. I love Peter Davison when he's telling Turlough, "If you do anything that's going to aid the master, then our friendship is done." I like that.
Oh yeah, because they were so close before that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember when you first got the TARDIS, you were trying to kill me with rocks.
But there's one scene for Peter Davison, like well, I guess we'll talk about him letting the Master die in and of itself, right?
Yes.
In that he's learned nothing from last week when everything was so violent in his life that his companion left and went, I'm done, this is terrible. So he just goes, I'll do exactly the same again. Like, I'll kill a robot. and then, but it's when, after the Master has died, he just turns around and he walks slowly back to the TARDIS, but really nonchalantly, like he's a Clint Eastwood-esque sheriff who's just like smashed up a bunch of bad guys and is now just going to go and have some dinner. There's no emotion. There's no, considering that there is the much debated what was the end of the you wouldn't do this to your own line. And apparently it's the line would have been suggested by John Nathan Turner, brother. Like, if that was bandied around prior to the filming of that final performance, if it actually had gotten over the line and the Doctor and the Master were brothers, Davison just turning around like back to the TARDIS is the most lack of give a fuckery that I've ever seen in Doctor Who.
Do you know exactly what it's like? It's like David Cameron walking away from that lectern after the Brexit announcement, just go do 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 back into number 10. It's the same thing. It's the same performance. Not to do the defensive job, but that just shows how influential Planet of Fire is.
I'm going to run off to my garden shed now and write my memoirs for a book advance of £200,000.
Yeah. Good luck,
Welcome to the
suckers.
Polis Box. Fuck the Tories.
The writer in you is quite bitter this evening, Cam, isn't he?
I am.
No one else
Yeah.
gets a fucking advance.
Sorry, I've just had, we'll come good one day.
Yep.
One day. But I've got a few things on my bucket list. You see, my writing bucket list, and like there's 2000 AD.
Yep.
Something Doctor Who related. Doesn't matter what. Just something Doctor Who. Doesn't necessarily have to be Big Finish, but something Doctor Who related. And Black Library.
Yep.
Those are the three things. And
You
that's
could
me.
probably do a
I'll be happy.
fantastic crossover.
Oh yeah, that might happen.
Okay, then. Well, now that Cam's finished touting for future of business, shall we go for the
Yes,
next
please.
point for the prosecution? Do you want to give us one of that, Cam?
Well, I
one,
was going to go with the Doctor shouldn't be burning the Master, but we've kind of already touched on that. Turlo, I'm nearly about done, really, to be honest. Yeah, I've only really got one more here that we haven't really touched on, kind of. And it's mainly for the second story in a row, we have a companion leave. And it's, once again, probably an incredibly understated and damp squib, almost, of an exit, when you have Turlo that basically just walks up to a collection of his people and goes, oh yeah, by the way, you don't have to go to public school anymore, you're all right. Just walk this way. And off he goes, and that's kind of it. And I know that the show's going through a lot of change at this minute. But again, coming so close in proximity to Janet Fielding leaving in the story before, it once again just feels like they're not really thinking any of this through. They're just literally kind of going, oh, well, we need rid of Turlo. So, he just walks off stage, right? Bye. See you. And that's it. I had the idea here of like kind of going, we've already said the Doctor shouldn't be the one killing the Master. I was like, fuck it, just have Turlo do it. You know, that can be Turlo's last act, is the piece of violence that the Doctor would never resort to. Turlo's got no qualms about it, and then he fucks off. At least then Turlo's actually done something of note as he leaves.
But that wouldn't be true of Turlo's character either. Turlo would let somebody burn, but he wouldn't start the fire.
All right, Billy Joel.
But yeah, like
he was always turning since San was burning.
I get your point. Yeah, they could have done it that Turlo let the Master burn, the Doctor throws him off the TARDIS. Turlough goes home with
Yeah.
people.
Turlough goes
Rather
home
than
with
going,
people,
"I'll just leave."
exonerated, but always going to have this little bit of a guilt, the fact that he ended up, letting someone die that, despite being the guy that was originally brought on to kill the Doctor.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. He ends up killing a Time Lord, but not the one he was originally supposed to.
Ooh,
They are quite
juicy.
callous.
Yes.
They are quite
There you
callous,
go,
yeah.
see? It's almost like I write shit.
Oh, no, come on, Cameron.
Never gets
You
commissioned
write
though, does it?
well.
Available for hire. If anyone from Rebellion Comics are listening.
You quite done with your shop window there, are you?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Fine now.
It's okay.
Okay.
No.
Just got enough time to point out that we've got a few minutes left in the vote. We have had a couple of bits of evidence come through on Twitter, so I'm just going to try and share the screen so we can see those.
Okay.
Bear with me 2 seconds. Is it going to work? It's not going to work, so I'll just read them out. We've had James H. Get in touch, say regular edition, not guilty. Special edition, very guilty. And David Gillespie Pratt said, not guilty, a nicely made and entertaining story. And Lanzarote feels like a real alien landscape. Always enjoyed this and don't get the disdain that it attracts. So,
Okay.
right. As we're coming towards the end of the vote, are there any other points you want to bring up at this point, either of these? Or?
I have personally pretty much ticked off all of the stuff on my list. I only had like 7 points. I think we've pretty much gone through everything.
Okay.
I don't know what Ben's got.
I'll not make a big thing about it, but I'm just I'm annoyed by the treatment of the Master in this story. I think for the first time, Anthony Ainley's Master is properly terrifying. They've given him an evil looking suit rather than his little fucking sparkly collared, flappy, piano player's costume that he wears. I think it's called the penguin suit. I think they call it that.
Yeah.
And there's two of them. There's two Masters. There's the chameleon Master, who seems properly vicious, and then there's the calculating kind of head, kind of controlling Master. And then they completely and utterly undercut it by making him tiny and getting him to did we learn nothing from Planet of Giants, right? There is no way of doing small convincingly on the Doctor Who CSO budget. It just undercuts and it really, really diminishes, figuratively and literally, the baddie of the story. The threat ceases the moment you see him, because there's a bit where he first tumbles out of the box and he does little squirrels run across the floor, he does a wee all fours run across, and you're just like, well, that's it, isn't it? And then Peri's trying to batter him with a shoe. I know I mentioned that. It just diminishes that character. And the reason they had the Doctor, the Master, having what looks like quite a final death is because that was the end of Ainley's contract, right? But he's back again 3 more times between the cancellation, between now and the cancellation of Doctor Who. We have 3 more Master adventures, right? The Doctor let him burn. The Doctor stood there and watched and let him burn. And the Master saw that. The Master saw the Doctor let him burn. You'd think the next time the two of them met up, it was going to be the vengeance tale of all vengeance. It's not. It's Mark of the Rani. He's just hanging out with another baddie Time Lord and fucking around with the Doctor. And then the next time you see him, he's helping him in Trial of a Time Lord. He's telling him that the Valiant has fucked around with the Matrix. And then when we meet him again in Survival, he's just been caught in his own adventure that the Doctor happens to stumble into. There's no sense that this was a definitive moment for those two characters, even though it was supposed to be. It just diminishes the character of the Master. And I think if Peter Wingard is getting credit, and rightly so, I think Anthony Ainley gives much better, much better than he's given credit for, and particularly here. I rest my case.
That was one of my remaining points for the defense of this. was that the master in this is actually properly menacing. There's the scene where he's twisting Peri's arm behind her back.
Yeah.
And if you told me the next day she actually had a sore arm, I'd probably believe you. Because it actually is properly threatening. The scene where he's
Yeah.
chasing her across the desert, it reminded me of the classic trope of the horror films, where she's running as fast as she can, and he's just walking along behind her laughing, and somehow catching up to her. It was that proper dark threat that he carried for a lot of this story. And yeah, it was probably let down by the special effects. And the way those scenes were filmed, because they filmed it from above when he was in the box, or like they didn't. So he looked even smaller. And it was just, yeah, they took away a lot of his power and a lot of his threat by making him that small and insignificant and blurry.
Yeah. Badly mapped onto the image.
Yeah.
Because there's a bit where there's a bit where they flip the image, you know. So there's obviously the reveal. Peri looks in, but there's a reveal later on where the doctor and Peri find him, and he's looking up and talking to the doctor, but completely the other edge of the screen. And then the next scene, they've got to flip him, so like his whole lab is flipped around, so they can get the CSO facing the right way to. It's okay.
They'll fix it in a special edition. It's going to be in a Blu-ray box set.
Oh,
I'll give Matthew Purchase something to get excited about anyway, won't it? So, you know, it's worth doing, I suppose.
yeah.
Right, before we go to sums up, we've had one more comment come through from Daniel Ronsley, who says Turlough could kill the Master and Davison could reprise his Warriors in the Deep Line. There should have been another way.
Yeah. Yep.
So there we go then. Right, let's go to those summings up then. Dave, do you want to give us your summing up in defence of Planet of Fire? Why is it not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who?
This is what could have been a standard Doctor Who story, but they've actually managed to film it in a location that suits the story. They've managed to cast a really good actor as Timonov. They've managed to change his character, so he's still a great character. Despite the fact that we lost a companion in the last story, we're losing 1.5 in this one, because they give Turlough finally some character development and then let him go home. There's not many companions that actually get to just go home and aren't accidentally fucking dumped in the wrong place or the wrong time. He gets to get back with his people and go home. Chameleon, we know all the behind the scenes issues with that, so they could have just never mentioned him again and just run it off. Instead, they find a way to use him as a lever in this story and also give him a send-off where he gets some humanity at the end. He begs for death, much like Doctor Who was at this time. We've already discussed Anthony Ainley as a great master. He's properly threatening, he's properly dark, and he does seem relatively evil. We understand his plan. It's not that sciencey, but it's not that bad. So yeah, this is nicely shot, it's nicely filmed, it's in a nice setting, there's some great acting in this, and there's good character development. We also get to meet a new companion, and we don't know how she's going to turn out. So it leaves a lot of nice open-ended stuff, it closes off some stories, and it's a nice mid-series story. So that's why it's not guilty.
Okay then, that's a strong summing up for the defence. Let's go to the prosecution and their summings up. Ben, do you want to give us your summing up on why it's guilty of crimes against Doctor?
I mean, it absolutely wafts of a story that's been conceived as a way to go on a piss-up holiday with your mates. And also exclude the one guy that you're having an office argument with. Like, it's absolutely done that. And it does just feel like it was given to Peter Grimwade as a spite commission. Tell you what, you can have a job on Doctor Who again, but here's these 18 things that you have to turn into a 4-part adventure. Go ahead, do that, you shit. Like, that's it feels like that. And Peter Grimwade has given like these things in. He's done it, but he's made it really dull. He's a better director than he is a writer. Like the stuff he's directed, like Full Circle and Earthshock and Kinder. These are all handsome productions. Logopolis. These are all handsome productions. But he's written stuff like Time Flight and Modern Undead and this. And it's just obsessed with Time Lord technology. Time Flight is just a bunch of gratuitous TARDIS dematerialization scenes, stealing from each other's TARDISes tit for tat. Modern Undead is just a stolen regeneration machine. This is, I mean, it doesn't really say in the story, but it's spelled out in the novelization. The numismaton gas is a variant of the Sisterhood of Karn gas. That's why the Master's so obsessed with using it. And it just diminishes these. Like, I get why Robert Holmes likes the Time Lords. He's interested in their motivations and their society and their culture or lack of, and what the Doctor was railing against. Peter Grimwade has an obsession with the Time Lords as well, but it's in a Star Trek-y hard tech kind of way, and it diminishes the Doctor. This should be a story about faith and volcanoes and characters fulfilling their potential, and it's not. It's just conversations in various console rooms and flicking switches all over the shop. It's a very dull story. Despite the fact it looks great, it doesn't go any deeper than that. It's just a very dull story, despite the fact that we have some of maybe the best looking Doctor Who of this series.
Okay, then. Cam, do you want to give your sum up for the prosecution? Why is it guilty of crimes against Doctor Who?
Difficult to top the quality of what my learned colleague has just summed up with, but I shall certainly try. It's guilty because it is effectively storytelling via checklist. That's probably Planet of Fire's biggest crime. It, as we mentioned, is kind of obvious that it's Peter Greenwood given the shopping list of things that he had to do, and it does it. But then it seems to just be satisfied to tick that off the list and be done with it and move on to the next thing, which drags the whole story down, really, to be honest with you. There's also, as Ben said, it's very much a case of, it feels like this was a jolly that just happened to have a little bit of work involved. And that came as this afterthought to what they were going to have at the bar that night. And as such, it ends up being this weak, almost empty feeling Doctor Who production, which is, nowhere near the heights that Doctor Who can hit. So therefore, it ends up being just guilty of crimes against who, I'm afraid. If I can end on one thing, it's Planet of Fire, Planet of Dire, may I like.
The script was a grim wade through not very good ideas, and the direction, I didn't know if it was coming or going. So,
hey, this is why the guy's a professional.
Yep, he's a pro.
Bang, bang, he's bang, pun, pun, pun.
I'm merely pretending he's a pro.
Right then. Those are your summings up. We are going to go and count the votes. When we come back, we will find out if Dave has claimed the series victory or if Ben and Cameron have pulled back a late away goal. We'll find out in just a few minutes' time. See you shortly. And we're back. The poll has closed. The results have been counted. It is time to find out whether Planet of Fire is guilty or not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who. Here's how you voted. Look at the despair on Ben's face. Look what you've done to the man.
That's fine. I didn't really believe what I was saying in the first place. I actually quite like Planet of Fire, so this is fine.
Welcome to the Polis Box. You've got the format.
Well, the Polis Box, we lie.
Just being a devil's ladvocate.
That's weird because I thought it was quite dull.
62% of you have decided that Planet of Fire is not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who. That means that Dave is the series-free champion. He's now 4-1 up. There's no way back for you now, Cam. You can only get it to
no way
4-3.
back
So
at all.
congratulations, Dave.
Thank you
I
very
didn't
much.
think even if this one had gone my way, I'm anticipating a tough time with Badrazani next time round.
Yeah, that might be a bit of a challenge for you, Dave.
Yeah,
series
a little
champion. Well done. Anything to say to our viewers?
You're all fucking weird for liking this stuff so much. That's all. There were 290% in this. What's going on with you people?
The takeaway message from this is just get some help, you lot.
Yeah.
It's bad enough you're sitting on a Thursday night and watch this.
No, as we always say, Doctor Who fans like Doctor Who. So if you're on
Yeah.
the defence, you're more likely to win. There have been a couple of
That's always
freakishly
right.
large results in this, but
Mm.
I can always think that the defence is going to win by default.
Yeah. If
Well-
we didn't have a show and we just sat there and said nothing and just put like a tweet up saying, is it guilty or not guilty of crimes against who? The majority would be not guilty.
The weird thing is, Guilty was winning with about 15 minutes to go.
Yeah,
Was
it
it?
was
I had
very,
it up
very
on my other
close.
screen. Yeah.
Oof.
So in the last half hour of the vote, that changed.
Did Dave get the sock puppet accounts out, or is it?
No, the sock card down the front of Turtle's Speedos. They couldn't vote.
Oh yeah, so it did tonight. Did that vote though
We're busy.
from Trello Speedos? Because it looks like it might have gained sentience.
Well, you would too if you're dragging Nicola Bryant out of the water in a bikini. Anyway,
Well, you know,
right. Enough of that. Let's move on. So Dave, as the series champion, gets to pick the this series we put on trial next series. Are you want to do that now, Dave, or do you want to save that for our end of our
I
twin
literally
episode?
haven't even started thinking about it. So
Okay.
yeah,
So there you go then. Are we carrot
Is
to
it-
dangle in front of the audience to stick with us to the end of the series?
without obviously you're not going to pick now, but we'll throw. Is it time for a modern one?
I don't know. It might be, but
Because obviously, if it's 13 parts of a modern series, we do one every 2 weeks. That'd be us for 6 months.
Yeah.
It's g-
unless it's Flux.
True.
oh, true.
Maybe he's giving us that away there. Well, we'll find out for sure at the end of the Twin Dilemma series. We've got 2 good episodes coming up, so stick with us to the end of the series. It's going to be worth it. Talking of the next episode, the biggest hide into nothing in Polis Box history is looming over the horizon. Dylan Reese is going to join us, join the prosecution team to try and kick Caves of Androzani. That's what's coming up next.
Yep.
So, good luck,
The
Dylan.
pressure's off a bit now, though, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's true.
To be honest, I'm not, in a way, I'm quite glad because it doesn't really give a. For me
Stranger things
personally,
have happened.
winning it or losing it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It'll still be good fun, but
Absolutely, Bill. Talking of good fun, Ben, it's been great fun having you on the show tonight. Thanks very much for joining us.
Well, I enjoyed being had, so thanks very much. No, genuinely, I love watching this. I love doing it, and it was great. I actually did. I did ask, could I be the prosecution, because I remember it being pretty shit. But actually, having revisited it and giving it quite a lot of depth, watching the episodes, watching the movie length, reading the as many reviews as I could find, and listening to other podcasts and reading the target book, I find a new sense of appreciation for it. So in a way, I'm kind of glad that we lost. So,
You don't know that and completely unpicked your own argument.
yeah, but I still stand by most of what I said. It's unfortunate, but that is Doctor Who. We exist in that weird hinterland where We love it, but fucking hell, we're never done complaining to friends about what they're like.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
that's
guilty.
Doctor
It's guilty of being Doctor Who. That's what this is guilty of.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
Do we need to do any more episodes now? We're just, I guess, finish it once and for all if that is guilty because it's Doctor Who. Good night, everybody. We can just return to our lives. What we've got you here, Ben, do you want to give everything you're involved with a wee plug that our viewers might not necessarily know about or already know about?
Yes, well, Mark mentioned it at the end of the last episode. On the Time Lash isn't dead. We're kind of working out what we're going to do with it. But in the meantime, we're piloting a new format called In the Time Lash, which is essentially we get a guest on and we do a room 101 about their Doctor Who likes and dislikes. We recorded the first episode where Mark is interviewing me, and we're going to record very soon a second episode where I'm interviewing Mark. But that first episode should be out. Episode should be out. What is it? Thursday? Should be out tomorrow. I think Marcus said he's editing it. It should be out on Friday. So, yeah, give that a wee listen. I'm just going to say it out here. Obviously, it's about what would you get rid of in Doctor Who. I'm also going to talk about the Doctor's fucking waistcoat in the Time Lash.
Wow.
As well, because that's the one thing I completely stand by. It is the most revolting thing I've ever fucking seen.
This is your bet noir of Doctor Who fandom, isn't it? That waistcoat.
It's just, everyone's got one thing they just tub thump about, right? And outside of Doctor Who, follow me on Instagram. I'm putting up a lot more stand-up comedy clips of various gigs and stuff. I'd love you to follow me and give those a like. I was going to say TikTok, but like I'm a near 40-year-old man. I shouldn't be on TikTok. It's basically grooming. So Instagram is fine.
What are you
follow
on
me
Instagram?
on Instagram.
The legal alternative.
Just at Ben Verth on Instagram.
Yeah. We'll put a link in the episode description when this goes out tomorrow as the edited episode. So we'll stick a wee plug for you in there as well.
I have followed.
Then.
There you go.
There you go.
Brilliant.
You got one
Thanks
extra
very much.
already. The magic of the internet.
Yeah. There you
go. Right then. That is Planet of Fire put into the official, unofficial canon of Doctor Who. It lives to see another day. Next time, Caves of Androzani, a regeneration episode in the company of the one and only Dylan Reese. That is in a fortnight's time on the 28th of March. We'll see you back here for that. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching tonight. Thanks very much for sending your messages and your viewer evidence. Until we see you next. Good night, everyone.
Good night.